let's get into our Stopping Socialism segment. So this topic was suggested by Justin. He sent me this link saying that he wanted to talk about this Fortune magazine article titled Escape from New York. Impending election of a Democratic Socialist mayor has the wealthy fleeing to the suburbs. So, Justin, feel free to cut me off, but I'm just going to read through some of this. The wealthy in New York City are on the move, spurred by what some are calling the Mamdani effect, a sudden surge of outward migration in anticipation of Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist, likely taking the reins as mayor this November. As polls point ever more decisively to a Mamdani victory in the fast-approaching November 4th election, Manhattan's elite are quietly packing their bags and setting their sights on the rolling lawns and leafy streets of Westchester County, as well as other suburban enclaves. Real estate agents in Westchester, directly north of the city's border, say that the torrent began shortly after Mamdani's surprise win in the Democratic primary in June. Zach and Heather Harrison, who represent the Harrison team at Compass, told Realtor.com they've experienced, quote, a spike in Manhattan residents reaching out about suburban properties. Nearly every city-based buyer they've shown homes to in Westchester since summer has brought up the mayoral race as a prime factor driving their suburban search. So since Mamdani seized the primary, home sales entering contract in Westchester County have jumped 15% compared to last. I'm sorry for laughing at this, but it's just so bizarre. Compared to last year, according to Harrison data, local agents now speak freely of the Mamdani effect, a shorthand for the collective anxiety and strategic thinking rippling through affluent New Yorkers who fear the prospect of increased taxes and sweeping socialist housing reforms. Manhattan realtors are feeling the heat too. Alexandra Carter, a licensed real estate salesperson with the Cochrane Group in Manhattan, told Fortune that the reaction to Mamdani's surprise primary win has been unlike anything witnessed in recent memory. Quote, I have never seen this type of reaction to a mayor, she said. It's been pretty drastic. After he won the primary, we had a company-wide call on implications for business because of the rent freezes. Describing the Mamdani effect, she said, quote, people are afraid it will be bad for business. Mamdani's campaign did not respond to requests for comment. So yeah, I mean, the context of this, as explained in there, is that Mamdani is looking more and more like he's going up against what's his name, the former New York mayor Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa, who is like the Republican. Cuomo is running as an independent. Like the article said, Mamdani secured the nomination for the Democratic Party. So it almost feels like the writing is on the wall. And, as things are more, it's less about what people say and what people do, and what people are doing, apparently, is surging to the suburbs based on what this article is saying. So, Justin, I mean, reaction, is this not a surprise at all to you? Is it what do you think?
I mean, it's so obvious that this is going to be a catastrophe. And, I've heard some Republicans say things like, well, conservatives, not just Republicans, but say, I think that this is a good thing because this guy's going to come in, it's going to be a train wreck, and everybody will get to see that socialism is a train wreck, be reminded by it, and then turn the other way. But by that logic, this guy shouldn't be elected in the first place, because socialism's been a train wreck for over 100 years, and it doesn't seem that people learn the lesson. It's always like we have to go through this painful experience, and then there's always some excuse for why this isn't really socialism, or somebody got in the way and made it not socialistic enough, or
no,
whatever.
Justin, the excuse is right here, right? Like we've done the research on
leaving.
socialism regimes all the time. What is a hallmark of these authoritarian socialist rulers when their country goes into the crapper? It's always there's saboteurs. There's these people that are messing with the system and all of that. People fleeing with wealth. They're always labeled as these saboteurs. It's right here. This guy's got his excuse right in this Fortune magazine article. If it wasn't for these greedy rich people taking their wealth and fleeing to the suburbs, then our system would have worked. So the excuse is right here for him.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's like that part of the calculus doesn't count. Like the idea from their perspective, it's like the idea that, well, if we try to do this thing, but everybody just leaves because they hate it, then it's their fault. They left. Not our fault for driving them away, but their fault because they left. And it's like, it's just so stupid. It's just such a stupid argument. And he says these things all the time where, like, I've heard him interviewed about this. One of his go-to lines is, well, all I want to do is I just want to raise taxes on the rich people. Number one, and he defines rich people as being what I would consider not that rich, considering the cost of living in New York City is insane. But then on top of it, I just want to tax the rich people, and I just want to raise the rates to what they are in New Jersey. And he talks about this as like, New Jersey's right across the river, and I just want to raise the personal income tax to what it is in New Jersey. That's all I want to do. That's it. And it's like, ignoring the idea that if you raise it to the same rate as New Jersey, then the cost of living in New Jersey becomes way lower because it's already cheaper to live in New Jersey. But if the taxes are higher, you might say, well, maybe I'll stay in New York because everything's cheaper in New Jersey. The houses are cheaper. Everything's cheaper. But at the same time, I got to pay more in taxes. So maybe I'll stay. But if the taxes are the same, why would I stay? You're literally taking away. It's just common sense. Everybody knows this. You're going to leave if not everybody, but a lot of people will leave because the cost of living is lower. You can still work in New York City from New Jersey, and remote work. This is the other really crazy thing. These policies are dumber than they have ever been before. They were always dumb, but they are dumber by far than they've ever been before because so many jobs can be done either entirely or partly remote. And so in the past, you might have to live in New York. Like if we were in 1960 and you had a great job in New York, you have to live in New York. Like, where are you going to go? You might be able to live in a really close suburb and maybe you can commute in, but it's a big pain and it's difficult to do. But you got to do it. Not anymore. Now you could live almost anywhere and fly to New York. You could be in Florida and fly to New York if you only have to work one day a week. And in fact, I know people who have done that, where they lived in some much more affordable part of the country and they would fly into their jobs. They were high-paid executives, fly it into their jobs because they ended up saving money. It made sense for them. They could have a much better quality of life living in some other place. So the idea again that like this is somehow going to be successful is ridiculous. It's so obviously not going to be successful. And it's especially dumb because in New York, there's already a tradition of people leaving. This is normal part of New York life. You make money, you have your job, and then definitely when you reach retirement age, you leave. Everybody leaves when they reach retirement age. But now you don't even need to wait for that. You just go to a place that's much more affordable and you work remotely and you move on. So this is going to be a catastrophe. But does it help get votes? I think that's all this guy cares about. And it probably does because a lot of people just don't. I don't know why, but they just don't think about any of this stuff or they don't care or something.
I mean, it's like, God, there's so many different ways we can dissect this, but it reminds me of like the Laffer curve, where it's like, well, if you raise taxes, then the reaction to that will be more tax revenue coming on. And it's like, well, no, That's not exactly what has been found. It's found that like there's a leveling off point and a dropping off point where if you raise taxes too high, then people will find ways to protect their wealth. And when it comes to like the federal government doing it, there's creative ways. That's where you hear like the people having their businesses located out like the Cayman Islands or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not rich. But in this instance, it's so easy. You just go and buy a house in Westchester. I mean, it's like unless they put up walls around New York City or something, like the money is going to flow out. So if the idea is that we're going to raise more money in taxes by raising tax rates on the richest people, they're going to end up taking in less tax money because at least some percentage of those people are going to take their wealth and leave the jurisdiction that they would be taxed at. So it's preposterous. The failure is built into the model here. I'm very curious to see how it plays out.
The other thing too that nobody ever talks about when we talk about these things, but it might arguably be the most important point, is that we always frame these things like, well, the people with money who are making money, like they'll just leave and they'll work remotely or they'll go someplace else, or maybe they'll find a whole new job or whatever, but they're not going to stay because it doesn't make sense financially. But it's like, if think about this, who are the people that decide where a business, the whole business, is located? They are the people most affected by these taxes. So you're not just giving them a reason to move themselves. You're giving them a reason to take the entire company and move it someplace else. Right. And to think that doesn't factor into the equation of some like guy who's the CEO of a corporation and he makes $50 million a year. And he's sitting there saying, well, if I move over here, I could save like $2 million if I move the company. And the building's getting kind of old or the lease is up on the space. So where should we go? Well, I've got a personal incentive to move this whole place across the river to some other, area or across the country, because I personally will get millions more dollars to do that. There's a lot of people who will make the decision to move the whole company because of that. Not only that, but there's a million other regulatory. It's not like it's just about taxes. There's horrible, ridiculous regulatory structure built around New York City as it is. It's already not a good place to do business. So you're just making it harder and harder and harder and harder and harder for people to stay. And that's why so many people have already left. And that's why these plans are really stupid and will cause more and more people to leave. And as the people with money leave, jobs leave. As jobs leave, working class people struggle more, and it's harder and harder for people to get by. And it's a tale as old as time. We've seen it 1,000 times over, and these people never learn the lesson. Ever, no matter what. They never learn the lesson, and they'll never admit they're wrong.
Like I said, the excuse is built in. They're just going to say, well, saboteurs, the rich people being greedy. If only we could levy it. Maybe we could levy a like a tax for leaving. That's an idea. We've literally seen those being proposed at like a federal level. But Justin, before we sign off, I'm curious, like, what are you rooting for at this point? I mean, the polls show strong lead for Mamdani. The idea of an independent winning, even with the name recognition of Cuomo or whatever, seems kind of far-fetched. I've seen a lot of calls out there that are like, if anyone's going to be Mamdani, Cuomo and Sliwa are going to have to like unite and be like a joint ticket or something like that. That's the only way. Are you rooting for something like that to upset this? Or are you just like, you know what? Let the train hit the apple cart. Let's see what happens.
I'm never rooting for things to get worse for people. But I think the problem that we have in this particular situation is it's not a choice between someone who will make New York better and someone who will make it worse. It's a choice between someone who will make New York worse and someone who will make it even more terrible than that. Those are the two choices. And so it's sort of like, given those two choices, I almost would prefer the more the face of the ideology, and the person who is just, okay, if socialism works, let's give it another try, everybody. Let's just keep banging our heads against the wall, but let's do it again. If those are my choices, if the choice was between a socialist like Mamdani and some, a free market person, then I would choose the free market person. I'd be rooting for that person no matter what. But because my choices are between Cuomo, who is a world-class guy. I was gonna curse, but I'm not gonna resist my Northeast, sensibilities and say
brashness.
And just say he's a very unlikable person, which is why he's not governor now. Because if people will remember, he used to be governor of New York, and he lost his job because he was engaged in a little too much touchy-feely behavior.
Hey, he's Italian. Oh, hey, what are you saying here? That's just the way we do things.
That was the excuse that he used. He's just an Italian. So one of the all-time great excuses in political history.
Another tale as old as time.
Just so everyone knows, Donald is I don't know, like 1/16 Italian or something like that. So he's allowed
more than that, but whatever.
It's 1/8. I don't know. It's something not very high, but it's. I mean, yeah, he's a scumbag. He's terrible. Cuomo is a horrible, horrible person in like every way imaginable. I can't stand Cuomo.
Wait. Hang on. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but you sent me this article. I didn't even look at it, but it's something that we have to share here. This is New York Post headline: 14 billion in income vanishes from New York City as 125,000 residents flee for Florida. Like, did it get hit by a hurricane or something? What is that? I mean, if that's the Mamdani effect, holy cow, did that other article understate this problem? So no,
this is not from Mamdani. This is not from Mamdani. This is in the years leading up to Mamdani.
Okay.
But the point is this. But this is the point. Like it's already a problem. So let's just pour gasoline onto the fire. Like let's just do that. Like the building's burning down, let's pour some gasoline on top of it. But the numbers are insane. It's insane. More than 125,000 people from New York have left to Florida.
Right.
Just Florida. Taking $14 billion worth of income out of the state. So $14 billion of income have left New York, but from just New Yorkers leaving for Florida from a period of 2018 to 2022. So 5 years, basically.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. And then 40,000 of them, of that 125, so like a third, went to 3 counties. So they're all, a huge chunk of them are even going to like the same parts of Florida.
Right.
And now why Florida? Why there? Why not someplace else? Why Florida? Well, because Florida, conveniently they got the nice weather, I guess. Like if you really like 100% humidity and like 110 degrees in the summer. But if you're right by the beach, you got a lot of money, I guess that's not a problem. But they've got the weather and the beaches and all that. Yeah, but they've got beaches and weather in other places that are nice. But what other places don't necessarily have is a 0% state income tax.
Right.
Which they do have in Florida. So if you want to live by the beach and you want to pay no income taxes, Florida is a good place to go in state income tax. So again, just add that in, right? Where are they all going in New York? They're all going to Florida, which isn't close to New York, by the way, for people who are geographically challenged. It's not near New York. People are going really far away from New York so that they don't have to pay any income tax. So Mamdani comes along and says, what we should do, everybody? We should increase the income taxes even more. That's what we need to do. That'll solve our problems.
And we're going to make the winters worse.
Well, you could make a case for that. That's what they're doing. It's the dumbest possible policy proposal that you could come up with. And yet it's widely celebrated by people on the left. Like this is the solution to all of their problems. And I just don't understand it. I can't understand it.
It'll be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see this play out. I mean, this is like an off year, right? For elections, midterms, or next year after this. So
from most places, yeah, yep.
So this is like kind of the biggest race, I think, that at least in terms of like national coverage, is the Mamdani New York City race, right? I mean,
I think I think the governor of Virginia is also this year. There's some like fairly, somewhat important. Well, you squinted your eyes like that doesn't matter, but if you remember, the last time that happened, that was a big deal. That was when the Youngkin won, and it was like this really shocking thing nobody thought was going to happen, and that was the conservative moms coming out of the woodwork post-COVID, and so that was the big story the last time this happened. So there are some other races, but this is clearly the one that's getting the most media attention. And New York, of course, is the biggest city in America, and so this matters. And and by the way, this should not be ignored. A lot of people who have been governor of New York have gone on to run for president of the United States, or been congressmen or senators or whatever.
Foreshadowing.
Cuomo ran for president, didn't exactly go very well, but Cuomo tried to become president. The Rockefellers back in the day, Nelson Rockefeller. There's been a lot of people who have been governor of New York tried to make this. Giuliani was mayor.
Mayor, yeah.
He was mayor. So there's this leap between mayor to governor to president in New York. That is a common thing. Or mayor to some higher office to running for president. So it does matter. Like these high level positions in New York matter a lot nationally.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to be paying attention to this. This is, obviously has major implications when it comes to socialism and just how people are receiving socialism, the rhetoric of that. And we're going to be talking about it on this show. So, maybe we'll do a watch party on election night, just tuning into Mamdani or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. Brace for impact. I'll be even more curious of what happens when he becomes the governor or the mayor there. So stay tuned to the Stopping Socialism TV. Stay tuned to Justin and Donald Save America. We are going to be covering all of these different topics, merging issues, merging technology, all of those horrible things that are going to be impacting our lives moving forward. Please help us out just by doing those few things that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, leaving a review for us, subscribing, sharing this content, hitting that like button, even leaving a comment under the video. All helps break through those big tech algorithms to prevent content like this from being shown to more people. Justin Haskins, where can the fine people go to find your work?
They can go to justinhaskins.com, and they can also check me out on X and all the other social media sites at Justin T. Haskins.
Fantastic. Thank you all for tuning into this episode, and tune in next week for a new one. Have a good one.